Французский канал. А, понятно, хорошо, спасибо, спасибо.
Good morning, dear colleagues. It's our great pleasure and great honor to welcome you here. Division of Rudan University, the Center for Scientific Reputation Management, and my co-moderator today, Timur Shlyapov, the head of the Center for Technology Transfer of Rudan University. Today, we are going to dwell upon the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, first of all, in Russia, and discuss the place of Rudan University in achieving SDGs. Then we will go on to SDGs in Africa and what do civilians know about SDGs in Africa. We will discuss the specifics of preparing information materials on the SDG agenda. And then we will go on to continue with a role-playing game, the model of international press conference. And I'm pleased to give the floor to our first speaker, advisor to the Rectorate of the Rudin University on Sustainable Development Issues, Maria Zhukova.
Добрый день. Презентация, пожалуйста. Добрый день, дорогие друзья. Меня зовут Мария, я советник ректора Российского университета дружбы народов имени Патриса Лумумбы. Я расскажу пару слов о проекте мирового значения, в котором РУДН участвует наравне с Гарвардом, Елем и другими ведущими университетами мира.
And other renowned universities. We want to live in clean environment, breathe clean air, drink clean water, so our loved ones and us have food and medical service and all other essentials. Almost 50 years ago in Stockholm, the first conference of United Nations took place on the problem of environment, and it launched the concept of sustainable development for our planet. Now it includes 17 development goals. We can see them on the screen. Please show the second slide. And the concept includes 17 goals for the human development. We can see them clearly on the screen. As our scientists forecast, we shall reach these goals by 2030. And we have only 7 years left to avoid the ecological disaster, poverty, and hunger, to preserve the health of the world population during pandemics like the new COVID infection. And to reach these 17 goals, all countries of the world, they put their efforts, the oil and gas companies, big banks, and leading universities, each one can contribute in this process. The oil companies are trying to reduce the carbon footprint and recover the environment. The banks issue green bonds. And universities perform research, they train students, and they do outreach activities. The Russian University of People's Friendship, Patrice Lumumba University, fully share these values. Slide 3, please. Russian Rudan University fully shares these values and follows ESG principles because we are fully aware of our responsibility before the future generation across all areas of our work. First of all, this is the educational activities of our university, scientific and innovations. And of course, Rudan University acts as a big economic entity. This is the entity of Russian economy. We have a large-scale campus encompassing several thousands of people. We consume water, electricity, and other resources. The university also leaves its own carbon footprint in the environment. Although this is much smaller than industrial enterprises, but still it exists. That's why Rudan University is working in all three areas of ESG agenda on environmental, social, and managerial dimensions. Slide 4. Just for example, our scientists developed a unique sensor system to monitor trees. We call them tree talkers. And we have more than 200 tree talkers installed on the trees in Moscow. And they tell whether the tree needs to be watered or the tree got sick. This invention helps to preserve trees and it makes our city more greener. In the university campus, we reduced the car parking area and instead of asphalt and concrete, we have flowers and trees growing. You probably noticed there is separate waste collection containers near the building. It also allows to make our world better. Lots of plastic gets collected and recycled due to digitalization of the university and our transition to the electronic document management system. Over the course of 2022, we saved more than 100 trees. We saved the entire forest. And for more than 10 years, Rudin is included on the list of the most environmentally friendly universities. In the Green Metrics rating, we are ranking as 28 and number one in Russia. Rudin University, Rudin Patrice Lumumba University is the greenest one in Russia. Slide 5, please. Also, Rudoyan is the most international in the world. Friendly environment of the university is comfortable for people of different nationalities and confession, as well as for people with special needs. Our university cares about half of our employees and students. We are implementing programs on health saving. They're fully free for our students and our faculty members. And last year, our university has become the first who prepared a report on the outcomes on reaching 17 human development goals. We considered global reporting standards, GRI. And by the way, Rudan is the only university in Russia that received PwC opinion on this reporting. We developed the practice of non-financial reporting. We disclose to the public our achievements on the sustainable development, and we ensure high quality of corporate governance. Slide 6, please. The achievements of our university in the area of sustainable development are not limited by having a green campus, inventions, and high level of tolerance and high level of care. What Ruden does, we are actively engaged in awareness-raising educational programs that shape competencies in the field of sustainable development. We deliver scientific events on the themes of 17 SDGs. One of such events is the large-scale international scientific conference of students and young scientists, which is devoted to the 17 SDGs, which is now annually held at the Ruden University. The conference for the first time was held in 2022 and it was attended by over 1,000 students and young scientists from 60 countries. In November 2023, Ruden will host the second similar conference. The regional aspect of this conference this year, of course, will be the focus will be on African countries, and for which the problem of lack of fresh water, food deficiency, and other resources is extremely acute. University understands how important to draw attention of the problems related to African countries. We assume that expert students and young scientists will take active part in search for resolution of the African problems and they will contribute to the improvement of the situation. Since the moment of inception, the Ruden University for more than 60 years carries the honorable mission of assisting African countries on bringing up the talented youth and training of highly skilled specialists for the economies of the African continent. Now, there is no single country left on African continent. Those citizens would not have received education at Patrice Lumumba University over the course of all the years, the number of African graduates accounts for 14,000 people. RUDEN carries out its mission with a great degree of responsibility, allowing the students to shape not only the professional competencies as doctors, engineers, lawyers, and other experts, but also the soft skills, where we include the ESG competencies. Each our student receives unique opportunities to take part in reaching the 17 Human Development Goals and use the knowledge gained at the university to make our world a better place. Thanks for your attention.
Thought-provoking conversation presentation, and Maria is also the co-chair of the organizing committee of our international conference, the second conference on 17 SDGs through the university. Well, SDGs are in the great focus of the research activities of scientists of Rudan University, and our next speaker is the Vice Dean of Agrarian and Technological Institute of the Rudan University, Maria Kornikova. So, Maria, you can start.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники форума. Меня зовут Мария Корникова. Я представляю
And Technological University of Rudan. And briefly, I will tell you about scientific and educational programs that are being implemented in our university and our institute in particular. Today, this slide is familiar to us already, and my report will be devoted to SDG 11. I will tell you what do we do for reaching the goal 11 sustainable cities and communities. The next slide, please. In the structure of our Agrarian Institute, we have a landscape design and sustainable ecosystem department plays many roles. And also we have a smart urban nature scientific center. Based at this department, we are implementing educational programs for different levels of students. For bachelor degree students, landscape architecture, master degree, 2 programs, one in Russian, another is in English. And also, we have programs for PhD students. Annually, we train around 50 bachelors, 25 master degree students, and 2 and 3 PhD students. Annually, we hold scientific events. We have a summer scientific international school that brings together young scientists and students from different countries and regions. And also, we develop online training courses and MOOCs. Speaking about scientific research, we perform it at a large scale, and we have 3 subdivisions. Center for Modeling and Projecting of Sustainable Ecosystems, Scientific Center, Smart Technologies for Sustainable Urban Development, about global changes, and Soul Ecological Lab. And their activity allows us to reach these 11 SDG. We have a broad-based geography of cooperation with the scientists from different regions, Russian regions, also from CIS countries and far abroad. Briefly, I will show you the major areas of our research. Just for example, the next slide, please show it to us. Today, in the previous presentation, probably you already heard about the observation network using the three focus devices. And here you can see these devices. And we place them on the trees, and it allows us to evaluate the physiological state of a tree and to make an opinion and issue recommendations for the urban services. And also we perform scientific research on the trees' health status in those areas where our sensors and devices are placed. Geography nowadays is rather broad. Apart from Moscow, St. Petersburg, such sensors are installed in the north, the high north of Russia, and in the south, Rostov-on-Don, and also in Chechnya Republic, in Grozny, capital of Chechnya. It is well known that in the cities, to establish the green infrastructure, quite often we use soil mixtures. Standalone area, which is uh, implemented in our institute, is devoted to the soil mixtures. We create the soil structures, we research their properties to propose, to offer to the urban services the most cost-efficient composition, and so where that can take carbon from the air to reduce CO2 emissions. And also, it needs to be aesthetic, so we can have a good grass growing on, considering all environmental functions. And this research has been done across different regions of our country to consider we consider regional specificities, for example, of the north in the south, and we also use regional substrates, adding them to our soil mixtures. For example, industrial waste in the north, we used to add in the soil mixtures, so we clean the environment from different pollutants. The next slide, please. What is interesting on this slide, we have wonderful lawns using our substrates in different regions, irrespective of the climate. Grass is wonderful, so we have a positive contribution in reaching the SDG 11. Another area that is actively implemented by us. This is the soil environmental research. Also, we perform it in different regions. We research chemical and microbiological properties of soil and water. We have accredited lab to do all the tests. So we perform scientific projects and take part in the contract implementation for organizations that need to receive this opinion on quality of water, soil, and air. And we are capable of doing all these tests. And a separate area is assessment of biodiversity of urban environments, both microbial, plant, vegetation, and living organisms that surround us in our day-to-day life. The carbon stocks and CO2 emissions are relevant to every one of us, and all inhabitants of our planet. And by doing research in this area, by the multi-year monitoring projects, we are trying to tackle this problem. And we perform different research across different regions to assess carbon reserves and carbon flows in the urban soils that are different from the background soil. Here also we contribute a lot in reaching SDG 11. And standalone area of our research is devoted to assessment of the urban climate. We are calculating the index of comfort for the residents of the cities. We recommend different models in the wind flows to the construction companies who build residential buildings. And in the future projects, they consider our environmental solutions and recommendations. Besides, you can see the examples of different classifications of such ecosystem services that nature provides to us. These are the benefits coming from the environment, and assessment of those services is another focus of our work. And we've got multiple classification principles. Examples you can see there. This is a standalone section.
Next slide, please. Also, we conduct quite a lot of scientific events and also the educational ones on urbanistic issues. Once a year, we'll launch a conference, Smart and Sustainable Cities. The next one will take place in 2024, and we can invite all of you there. As a result of this conference, we publish manuals and brochures of the conference materials. We issue Springer. And one more event I would like to touch upon, and it's also about top-class education of urban professionals, and this is the International Summer Field School, which we've conducted quite recently, our institute, and we certainly invite all of you there. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
I got some extra information for you. You know that when we are talking about some scientific results, we are thinking about theory, but actually our colleagues got some applied results. I think you can even see it in the downtown of the Moscow, in the heart of it, in Zaryadny Park. So we are working there, and all the results of our researchers you can see there. You can see how the ecological systems works there, and I think that's pretty interesting. If you want to make picture with Maria, you can do it in the Zaryadny Park. It will be interesting for you. So research her in the heart of the Moscow, and it was built by her. Okay. Thanks. Another point we're supposed to discuss is media as a platform for promoting SDG goals. Irina, the floor is yours.
Большое спасибо. Доброго дня, уважаемые коллеги. Я безумно рада.
I'm really happy to have this opportunity to share our practice of on sustainable development here by Rudian University. And I'd like to see how we can use media as a platform for promoting sustainable development goals. And I would like to start with some news, which was published on the 20th of June on this platform. So that was a questionnaire result, which said that about 90% of Russian people questioned did not understand ESG or sustainable development terms. Interestingly, other questionnaires say that all citizens of the Russian Federation and of other countries are really interested in sustainability, and they really are sure that preserving of nature, sustainability is a priority of the human being on the whole, and our social focus too. Actually, we can see that mass media really touch upon sustainability. It's also part of politics, education, even fashion. All our life is linked with sustainability and this kind of approach, but questionnaires really reveal that many people do not understand what ecology is, what sustainability is, and what we can do to prevent our nature and to preserve it, to prevent it from destruction. So, based on my experience and that of my colleagues, I've introduced four major points. Number one, uh, so and actually all these problems are regarding problems in mass media. So number one problem or challenge is lack of uh, good experts. So many people who really seriously deal with sustainability, they don't work together with mass media. That is why very often we can see newspapers and magazines, amateurs. People don't know anything about it actually. Number two, challenges that there are a lot of stereotypes. So we see something in media, and we preserve it, and then they develop. The next challenge is false information or fakes. And I don't mean some theories. I need, what I mean is really false information. It's like today is the last rainbow. Incorrect wording and wrong terms is the last but not the least pillar here. We, our Institute of Ecology, have been working together with mass media for 2 years. So, um, so we have some practical approach here. So let me state once again that mass media is to be used and should be used as promotion instruments for sustainable development. Some people tell me, when you speak, you can achieve nothing. But if we want governments or institutions to do something, we need to do something. And we, by we, I mean ordinary people, civil society, just humans, need to draw them to that. And this is really significant. There are three major pillars how we can work with mass media on sustainable development. Number one, just informing on ecology and environmental issues. What do I mean here? When somebody, an expert, comments on what is going on, uh, uh, it's important to state sustainability too. Actually, ecology is science about life. So when we work in collaboration with mass media, we can present uh, the truth and information about sustainability to the public. Number two, blog is focusing on important issues. And here we come closer to the SDG. Sometimes our experts speak somewhere as a consultant who gives an interview answering questions of the journalists, tries to draw the attention of the audience just step by step to something really important regarding ecology. And maybe the journalists didn't ask these questions because they didn't know anything about it. And also dispelling myths and stereotypes are important. Um, Very often, journalists asking questions, they are under stereotypes themselves and asking questions. They draw the speaker to some wrong conclusions. So we really need to dispel myths. And the third important block is implementation of expert mass media support. When journalists know as experts and they work with them regularly. And we do not only answer questions or just check something or correct something, but we draw the journalist to some topics which are important for us. Just, you know, uh, there cannot be nothing on the internet. And it's important that we add content of high quality there. What prevents great experts, scientific people to work in collaboration with mass media? Well, again, fears and risks, and also, some fears. Some experts are afraid for their reputation. So, and this really sometimes proves to be like this when the video is changed or the wording is changed. Also, there are risks that the experts are named in a false way, um, or they're also afraid that during the interview they will be asked provocative questions. So these are normal fears. They are not always stereotypes, but this shouldn't prevent you from interaction with mass media if you are a competent professional. And please, a bit on, and one slide back, please. Yes. So look at this slide. You can have screenshots from interview with our assistant professor, and look here, his title is different all the time. Sometimes they read a biologist, ecologist, or whatever. All this is true here because he really has several degrees of education, but sometimes this can be confusing and sometimes this can be wrong. I mean, our expert is really expert is in all these areas, but this is not like always like this. So to avoid all the listed above risks and to reduce your fears, we've selected the 4 rules how you can work with mass media. These are the 4 principles of any expert. Number one, we need to ensure the accuracy of information. So please say only what you really know, what you are sure of. Do not use absolute forms like never, always. They are obviously false. Stick to your own opinion. Sometimes journalists are not really friendly and they want you to pronounce some phrase which is wrong, but they need sensation, they need emotions. Don't play for them. So you need to have your uh, point of view during the conversation, but certainly be polite and laconic. Please, number 3, present information unambiguously and clearly so that the experts are sure that the journalists do not confuse anything. So use short and simple sentences, decipher terms, uh, uh, because you work and speak with different people. Speak in a language that is understandable by people, by broader audience. So share the information you want to share, but according to your point of view. And number 4, do not narrow the range of your topics for comments. If you have a question regarding biological research, and you know the answer because it's part of your research, please don't hesitate and answer because it's better that you give a comment that some other person who is not a professional there. So successful practices and types of communication strategies with the mass media. So it's important that you control communication with mass media yourself. You may have some assistant or a colleague who will do it. So this is the principle. Every time something by you is published, please look what is there, what will be printed. If you can see that the information is presented incorrectly, you always have the proof what command uh, you gave before, because there are traces. You can always say this is not my command. If it's radio or TV, then you have the original recording, or you can have it. And again, this is the proof for you. If the journalist violates your remarks, it's better not to work with the journalist after that. There are two strategies or practices working with the media. Number one, a friendly expert and a very bad PR manager who touches upon all the mistakes. And one more strategy, and a cool, not accessible expert who pretends to be very top class and high fold, and a very nice PR manager uh, who helps the journalist. This can be your colleague, not necessarily your assistant, but it's good when you work together. Besides professional training, our Institute for Ecology has very good practices to develop professionals not only in ecology, because we practice the skills of working with mass media with our students during their university education. And one of the most striking projects is a professional student association called Environmental Journalism. You can see the QR here, so you can go there and subscribe. And you will see that our university students took part in radio broadcasting and TV shows and uh, many more. Uh, Concluding my presentation, I would like to state once again that positioning of an expert consultant is really important to achieve the SDGs. So if mass media know you, if many journalists know you, and a lot of people saw or heard you on TV or somewhere, what are the advantages? Number one, increasing the expertise um, and awareness. Also, the level of trust to the expert is improved too. More people know you, and all this makes more probable that people from the business sector will go to you, or from the government. Maybe they will ask you for a comment or a support or for some information. And this is really vital, because if people want to make their business more sustainable, but they don't know how, uh, they make some steps, but sometimes they make wrong steps, and they will need real experts for that. So, concluding, I would like to say that nature does not tolerate emptiness, as we say. So, what will be the information field our children will develop in? It depends on us. So, good information is important. So let's create our eco field, and let's develop eco-friendly, sustainable children and university students. Thank you so very much. That is
for such a thought-provoking presentation. In fact, all the researchers can be visible in the news media. They can be trustworthy because the research that they are conducting in order to achieve sustainable development goals are so important for business sector and so important for science itself. And of course, researchers can dwell upon the business-oriented agenda, and business turns to be a corporate, turns to be responsible. Business turns to be responsible. Okay, and our next speaker, we are proud to give the floor to our guest, journalist from Zimbabwe, Brandon Mazumba. Brandon, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Brandon Mazuba. Let me start with two questions. How much is our lunch? And how, and what do we buy with $1.90? $1.90. Literally, it's not enough to buy lunch. Anyway, we can go. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the UN Global Compact, more than 700 million people, or 10% of the global population, still live in extreme poverty, which means they are surviving on less than $1.90 a day. And experts predict these figures will continue to rise as a result of the COVID-19 crisis and the ongoing impacts of conflicts and climate change. But where does journalism fit in these SDGs? I believe journalism is the backbone of 17 SDGs adopted by the United Nations. It is the tool that will help fight poverty, end hunger, achieve good health and well-being, ensure quality education, gender equality, promote peace, justice, climate action, and so forth. No politician, no president, no religion can end or promote these without journalism. And I would like to believe that it is the reason why we as media practitioners have gathered here for this forum. It is undoubtedly correct for me to say that journalism is the backbone of the 17 SDGs that we have. I shall speak about some of the advances that my country has done in pushing the SDGs, even though there are some economic sanctions imposed on us by the West. Africa's literacy rate is getting much better, though there are still some challenges due to conflicts and climate change that affect our educational facilities, which means there is a growing market for information consumption as more people can read and write. If there is such a great market of literate individuals, that means journalism have the power. Journalists have the power to feed people developmental information on agriculture, technological advancement, and climate change. With that being said, African countries such as Zimbabwe thrive on agriculture and mining. Therefore, in a bid to achieve zero hunger and end poverty by 2030, the Zimbabwean government, headed by His Excellency President Emmerson Mnangagwa, embarked on a national development strategy, which is called NDS-1 and NDS-2, which include the Pfumvudza Intwasa agricultural program, which supports over 1.6 million vulnerable households for maize, sunflower, small grain, and soya beans production. Maize is Zimbabwe's main crop that produces its staple food. And this program has become the main subject of media houses in our country because we understand that Zimbabwe is a developing country that needs to end poverty and hunger. But for this message to be heard and accepted by the country, there has to be the media. As such, all media houses in Zimbabwe, from radio, television, print, and online blogs, embarked on a national mission to educate, inform, and tell the masses on how to carry out this program through journalist discussion panels, TV shows, documentaries, which were screened, aired, and published so that there can be information flow from journalists who are opinion leaders in the society in a bid to end hunger and thus eradicate poverty in Zimbabwe, because we also want to reach an upper middle income society by 2030. Russia can play a role in pushing the SDGs in Zimbabwe by investing in the media and collaborating with us. We need technological advancement in the media in terms of cameras, personal training, information dissemination tools, and more equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, long gone are the days when African states needed AK-47. We know Russian produced AK-47s. in Zimbabwe, we understand military security is important, but it's time we focus on ending poverty rather than militarization of our countries. We are sovereign states and we don't need arms of war anymore, but developmental tools, in particular, journalistic tools from Russia. I would also like to applaud the cooperation between Russia and Zimbabwe in terms of disaster management, wildlife protection, and conservation. Recently, there's been Russian supply of helicopters in assisting evacuating Cyclone Idai victims and ferry journalists to the flooding areas, which claimed thousands of lives in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Malawi. Such cooperation is greatly valued as it aims to strengthen partnerships for the goals, which is SDG 17. Like I said yesterday, in the meeting that we had yesterday, reporting in times of natural disasters, such as Cyclone Idai, Cyclone Freddy, was really hard because of lack of road access to the places, lack of internet connection in terms of sharing live information on the development of the cyclone. For example, relevant information would come 6 hours later after a development because of lack of internet connection. Someone would have to get to a place where there's internet connectivity to send news, or a simple text like how many people have died, or how many people have been evacuated, or what is needed to evacuate people. Citizen journalism grew big at this time since the big media houses did not have adequate live broadcasting equipment to broadcast the developments live. Therefore, we can actually see the cooperation between Russia and Zimbabwe in supplying the helicopters helped in achieving these SDGs. To add on, journalism promotes economic growth, infrastructural development, and technological advancement, which can be communicated to the nation. In Zimbabwe, Russia has collaborated with Zimbabwe in mining, as there was the development of the Manize iron and steel plant, which resulted in great road rehabilitation program, which saw the construction of the road from the Zimbabwe-Zambian border down to the Zimbabwe-South African border. And this had made transportation better, thus fostering economic growth. There's also been construction of dams to realize agricultural importance in realizing Vision 2030, where we need to have achieved these SDGs. There's been the extension also of the Robert Mugabe International Airport, which will act as a connector to the eastern and western world of aviation, thus driving economic growth and investment. These are just a few examples I've picked from my country that will help you note how important the role of journalism is in informing people so as to realize these SDGs. Imagine if Russia had news agencies in Zimbabwe. Some of this information would be readily available in Russia, and people would really know and they would really want to come and invest in Zimbabwe. In conclusion, I would like to say that some African states are having elections this year and early next year. For example, Zimbabwe, we're having our election on the 23rd of August. Liberia, Madagascar, and South Africa shall have its elections next year. Some of your Russian media houses might come to Zimbabwe with various Russian observers in the elections. It is time to strengthen our relationships and shape a better future for both Africa and Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe is open to Russian investment in the media. Africa is open to Russian investment in the media. We invite Russia to come set up media houses, and we'd also love to have our own local languages taught here in Russia, like we said yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for your invitation. I think we can manage to discuss it with our partners and with our colleagues, just to be sure that we can share our knowledge in the field of sustainable development goals. We can also find some connections in the field of different governmental programs. We got a lot of them, so I think it will be useful for you. And of course, we're supposed to think about the wellness of all the countries, not only the only one where you live, but also about the wellness of your neighbors. Just not to think about any military interventions. And when we're talking about the helicopters, they're supposed to be helicopters for, I think, for some emergency cases. You know what I mean? So. Thanks a lot. I think we got today some extra time and we can discuss it. And thanks a lot for you. And we got another speaker, Mr. Maxim. The floor is yours. Mr. Maxim, the floor is yours.
You can start.
You can start.
OK. Je voudrais saluer tous les participants à ce forum. Mon nom, c'est donc Maxime Zobo. Je suis de la Côte d'Ivoire. Je suis journaliste, producteur. Et nous avons eu à travailler pendant plus de 25 ans à la télévision nationale où on a
12 years, we worked at one of the state-owned channels where we covered different topics. As of today, we have a special program and private channel, confessional program and private channel. Among other things, we have a journalism school in Abidjan, and this is one of the biggest cities of Côte d'Ivoire. What I'm going to do today, I got prepared for the discussion and for the masterclass. But since I'm given the floor, I will try to present my perspective in terms of sustainable development goals. We are journalists, we are reporters. And we need to make sure that the information on SDGs across different spheres of life. So to be discussed, this is our task, to draw attention to these important subjects. And since here we're talking about journalism and its specificities, this forum is devoted to the specificities of journalism. And I would like to draw a special deal of attention to how the journalists do their job, how do they write, the process, because here we are talking first of all about the information and the way we deal with this information. What information stands for. This is something that a journalist comes on site and he has a notebook and makes notes and he can see everything with his or her own eyes, sits and gives a certain shape to these notes. And shape to what this journalist witnessed. It can be a report, it can be a commentary, it can be research or investigation. And it will be written. And through the word, we need to give a certain direction, certain vector. And this data that we kind of shape and form and it has a post-editorial state, so it needs to undergo editorial editing. If we are talking about the information that comes with regards to the Russia-Africa summit, and we know which agency broadcasted news on it. And we know that whatever will be discussed at the summit will be on the responsibility of the Russian mass media. And we will know about things happening at the summit through the Russian mass media. The information editing and processing, we have two questions. To whom do I want to address this information? This is point one. I collected this information, I have certain amount of data, but when I see it and write, I think, whom do I address my writings to? Who is my target audience? And how to write it in a better way? How to ensure that this information hits this target and it gives the right impression, the impression I intended to before coming to Moscow, prior to it. I said to my daughter that I will go to Russia, I will visit Moscow, in the Western Africa. That information which we receive directly, it mostly comes from the French mass media, from the French news agencies, or Voice of America, BBC. These are the media from the West. They have their own agenda. And we don't have a single Russian news agency that directly provides information to the Western African population. And what do we know? We know that in Moscow there is a war going on, the bloodshed, and people shoot each other. Are you going to come to a place where there is a war, in the midst of war? And here, having come here, I will tell my daughter that in fact, this is quite opposite. When I just arrived to Moscow, I started answering questions to the people from Cote d'Ivoire. I used to tell them, I'm in Moscow, I'm in Moscow. And I just explained what is happening around. I described the situation. I acted as a journalist. I did it from the journalist's perspective. And so our goal, whether we work for the private or state-owned channels, or at schools and journalist schools or colleges where they teach journalism, we are trying to train our students to make them understand that the journalist is someone who serves its audience. All the newspapers, different newspapers have different target audiences, different readers. But a professional journalist need to have this feel and touch with the audience and understand what the audience needs.
Western media do it on purpose to detach us from Russia. These are all political games. But what shall we do to prevent it from happening like this? And this is the major challenge. If you are a journalist, you address to the youth, to young people, and then you need to speak their language with them. You need to be a teacher, professor simultaneously. But if a journalist addresses to some professional community, you have a target. For instance, we are in our professional community in Patrice Lumumba Rudin University in Moscow. We are here, an intellectual community. It means we need to speak this level, provided the purpose and status. Journalists never write for themselves, but for other people. And if the journalists adjust to other people and to fill them, it can be written in a simple way, in a very accessible way. There can be short sentences, but the words then should be selected very carefully, very specifically, without complicated sentences, overcomplications. We need to have rhythm, and we need to keep up with it. This is the power of writing. A lot of information can be transferred using little words. If the value of your text is really high, if you always aim at achieving perfection, for example, you start writing something, you correct something until the very last moment when you refer the article to the publishing agency, you can improve your text to perfection to make it more full, more interesting, more complete, so to say. Journalists shouldn't be happy with something little. Regardless, we always are limited with terms and deadlines, regardless the pressure. It's really important to transfer the information quickly, especially today. But regardless, we need to stay professionals. So all this highlights that you need to read once again several times what you write. And the fundamental goal or purpose of every journalist is to edit our text all the time, because this is our purpose. Journalists should be capable to guarantee that the person who reads or hears the news, the text, will get true information, which has an impact on the reader the right way. So, dear colleagues, This is, in short, what I wanted to say today, criticizing the work of some journalists. Today, everything connected with Russia and African countries is important so that our peoples meet and become closer. And here, the journalist role can and should be vital. Thank you for your attention.
You are pleased to be here in Moscow, here in Rodin University, and we are not disappointing you. And thank you for your contribution in the process of verifying information about Moscow, about our university, and about Russia. We have covered the issues of sustainable development goals, both in Russia and Rudan University, and SDGs for the African continent. We have touched upon the issues of how an expert should react to the SDG agenda and work with journalists. We have heard the positions of real journalists in touching upon the problems of sustainable development goals. And now we are ready to go on to our special task, to our teamwork. Yesterday, our wonderful moderators divided you into two teams. In brief, I will just give the task for the role-playing game. Можно, пожалуйста, презентацию по модели пресс-конференции? Yes, we have seen part of this presentation yesterday, and we have prepared some leaflets for the SDGs. What we are doing next? We have enough time, practically an hour, in order to work in two teams. First of all, you should make some kind of a research in team on how media of your countries is covering the problems of sustainable development goals. Then choose one person from your team to be the team leader, to be the presenter. Prepare just a small talk, small conversation, small presentation. And then the second team will ask questions, team number one, and then they will change. So now you have enough time to prepare for such type of role-playing game. And we will be waiting for you then after the break. So now we have an hour for preparation. Then we are having a break, lunch. And at 12:30, we will be ready to welcome you here and to start the role-playing game, the model of the press conference. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me now. No, everything is clear. That's great. Thank you so much.